Would we have seen another result at Amstel Gold Race without the car of the organization in front of Tadej Pogacar?
No.
Is Amstel Gold Race monument worthy?
No.
Has Tadej Pogacar a bigger chance at winning Liège next Sunday than Remco Evenepoel?
No.
Would you be able to finish your Amstel beer faster than Tadej Pogacar?
No.
I've got the spots, the sickness. There's be twins in my brain.
It's a year of firsts for Tadej Pogacar. After winning Jaén Paraíso Interior, Ruta del Sol, Paris-Nice and Tour of Flanders for the first time in 2023, he now added Amstel Gold Race to his palmarès. By the time Ben Healy finished as second, Pogacar could have drunk 6 Amstel beers. No beers for us today, as we have a Liège-Bastogne-Liège preview coming up after we discussed last Sunday's action at the Dutch Classic. We're once again the 4 of us, as Bram, Yves and Dieter are joining me on this journey. Hello guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Yves, are you as excited for the Ardennes Classic as you were for the Flemish Cobbled Classics?
Not really, no. The Flemish Classics are... I like them more than the Ardennes Classic. Maybe Liège will be very interesting with the fight between Pogacar and Evenepoel. But I didn't see a single kilometer of Amstel Gold Race, I need to be honest. And I saw every single kilometer of a Flemish Classic, each Flemish Classic, I think. So that explains a lot, of it tells a lot.
You already mentioned something quite important, isn't it, Bram? As you must be hyped about Liège, because your goat will be back racing in Belgium.
Yeah, I mean, finally. After all the fake rumors that he would be at first the Ronde van Vlaanderen and then at Amstel, we're finally going to see him race in a one-day race this year. Exciting.
Dieter is joining us again as well. Dieter, am I right? You're living quite close to the Amstel Gold Race finish and course. Did you watch the race live?
Yes, I cycled to the race with the local cycling club, and I watched on the Maasberg, one of the first race, the first hill in the race.
We all know you like to drink a beer. Did you drink one on Sunday as well?
No.
Not at all. Alright, let's get started with the Amstel Gold Race review. The biggest talk of the town after the men's race was the car of race organizer Leo van Vliet, which was riding in front of Tadej Pogacar during the final. Do you guys think it influenced the outcome of the race? You've already answered, but maybe Bram, Dieter, what's your opinion?
Personally, I don't think it influenced the results. I think it influenced the time gap, but the time gap was still big enough that Healy wouldn't have come back. So, no result change.
Dieter, I remember you being quite mad after the finish because of the incident.
And rightfully so, I think. Those things just can't happen. Healy was at 19 seconds at the time. He was getting closer, but I think, I'm a big Healy fan, but I think he would have blown up either way. Like he would have get to like 15 seconds, but he wouldn't close the whole gap. And he said himself, if he would have closed it, he wouldn't have won either way, because Pogacar isn't exactly slow, so it didn't influence the result.
What makes you a big Healy fan?
Just how the man races, how he is. Like, I remember him with Trinity. He attacked a lot that year. I watched a podcast with Yves Lampaert, and that was in 2021 Tour of Britain. Healy was in the break, and there Lampaert got to know Healy, and he said he needed to ride really hard after that break, because Healy was a big motor. And I watched at the watts, it was like 5.8 for an hour, the last hour of the race, so it's big.
Was there any one of you guys after his second place at the Brabantse Pijl who thought that he would do it again in Amstel Gold Race?
Personally, I didn't. He was very strong in the Brabant Sepel, but he was beaten by a very strong Godin. The Brabant Sepel isn't the Amstel Gold Race, but the quality of the start list in this year's Amstel Gold Race was a little bit weaker than usual as well. But still, to finish second in front of a Pidcock, in front of a Cosnefroy was sick, I've seen half an hour ago. But still a very strong performance. I didn't expect him to get on the podium.
Yeah, Healy rode a pretty smart race. Like, I remember Pidcock was being the one who followed Pogacar the longest, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So I think Healy, he looked for his own pace and then got back to Pidcock.
Healy was maybe not so smart in the Brabant Spel, where he used too much energy that he needed at the finish, and now he did the opposite, rode a very smart race. He chose his own pace on the climb. Pogacar attacked and dropped everyone, but yeah, you saw he really knows his body very well, that he can pace himself that good up the climbs, and even the last stretch to the line, he was even able to put a very nice power.
It was once again Alpecin Phoenix, Alpecin de Koning, who opened up the final. At Amstel Gold Race, it was Gianni Vermeers with 85 kilometers to go. Do you guys expect him? Is he going to Liège, for instance?
I believe he's on the start list, yeah.
At first, I thought Amstel Gold Race might have been a little too hard for Vermeers, but I was kind of surprised by his result.
He's currently not on the start list, but there are only 4 riders from Alpecin de Koning on the start list right now, so... yeah, I didn't expect him to do anything there. It seems too hard of a course for him, too much climbing. But yeah, he's kind of surprised me there. I even have him in my Wheeler Manager team, but I didn't put him in because it was like, he's not going to do anything there. Yeah, I was wrong. Very surprising to see him on the attack as well. But attractive racing style.
Wasn't it
Actually,
a move to prepare something for the leaders within the team? I don't think he had the plan to take Pogacar with him with 85 k's to go. It was maybe more as a move to anticipate on the big guys. But yeah, that turned out different.
That's the problem you have with Tadej Pogacar. If he's in for a move, he's just joining.
It's also a question, who are Alpecin's big guys? Søren Kragh, I'm guessing, he finished 3 minutes after Vermeers. So
Was Quinten Hermans at the start there?
no, he was sick.
No, he was sick.
Oh. Okay.
if you look at Vermeer's weight, actually the biggest surprise is that he can ride so good at cobbles like Roubaix, because he's only 65 kilos. That's less or exactly the same as Pogacar. So it's actually, I will see him as a cobbled rider, but if you look at his weight, it's actually pretty logical.
Yeah, I remember Mathieu van der Poel also said after Paris-Roubaix that a lot of people talked about the performance of Jasper Philipsen, but he really mentioned that Gianni Vermeers did a huge amount of work and important work that we couldn't see on television. So I guess the guy can be very happy about his classic season. We already mentioned that Healy was second, Pidcock finished third, and that was a pretty close one in the end. It was Lutsenko and Kroon, I guess, fighting for his podium spot. Did anyone see Pidcock at the finish line?
I think he was pretty dead.
The guy was exhausted.
I mean, he blew himself up trying to follow Pogacar for that long. And yeah, that just goes to show, like, on the next climb, I think the climb after Keutenberg, you have Healy attacking, I guess, Pidcock, and yeah, normally Healy isn't supposed to drop a good Pidcock, and I do think we had a good Pidcock that day. We never really know. But yeah, I think he was just cooked. He just cooked
That-
himself.
Pidcock mentioned he didn't eat enough during the race, so he had trouble in the last 30 minutes to put some decent powers out of his legs, but still he was completely shredded at the finish line.
The fact that Tadej Pogacar was there at Amstel Gold Race, does that influence his legs for Liège and Fleischwollen?
Yes. Yeah. And I think going that early, it definitely does. If he was close to going too far with like racing loads already, going that early can hurt you even more, to the point that you aren't top fit anymore for Liège. But if he still has enough in the tank, it's only good with the Iron Liège. So yeah, hard to say.
It's also important to know that he rode 10 to 15 kilometers on a semi-flat tire, waiting for the team car
More.
to come through, or even more. So yeah, I think he definitely had a rough day. I personally don't think it's going to affect his performance at Liège. Pogacar is one of those riders that just seems to like racing and doesn't really suffer from hard races in the weeks or days afterwards. We see that at like Grand Tours as well. He can have a weaker day, but the next day he's just there again.
Like the Belgian commentators, Karel van Nieuwkerk and José de Kouwer, mentioned they saw a fatigued Pogacar for the first time this season. Am I the only one who didn't see that, or am I wrong?
I even put it on Twitter. Like, I did not see him as fatigued. I saw him as very happy.
Yeah, there were all those faces at the finish line were a little bit, tired. But
It was
of
a
course,
cold and wet day.
Well,
yeah,
Yeah,
the
but-
weather wasn't good.
logical.
Compared to the
And-
others,
Yeah.
I think after 1 minute, 1 minute after the finish, I had the feeling that Pogacar was ready to do another ride compared to the faces I saw. Yeah, really. I didn't agree with it.
But I think we have to mention as well, Dieter made a small analysis of the Ben Healy effort performance of Amstel Gold Race, and the amount of calories, kilojoules, whatever it is, was very high. He burned a lot of calories, so that means it was a hard race, a rough day in the saddle for everyone, even for Pogacar.
And you burn even more. Like your barometer only counts the kilojoules you put in the pedals, but in a cold day like that, your body warms itself and you indirectly burn even more calories. So huge there.
What was more impressive, his performance on the bike or his performance on the podium?
His performance on the podium, no doubt. The way he
It took 5 seconds. I timed it.
Amstel beer doesn't taste very well, but how he just drinks that in 5 seconds is incredible. You
Let's
saw
say the guy
Healy-
was hungry.
Yeah, you saw Healy and Pidcock a small sip, or Pidcock didn't even drink it, and it was like, and then Pogacar say, "Let's rock and roll."
All right,
mean-
let's move over to the women's race. Oh, Bram, you were going to
No,
add
no.
something?
It's just it tastes so bad. It's best to get it over quickly.
Demi Vollering, once again, Team SD Worx on the podium. How impressive is that by now?
At a certain point, it doesn't become impressive anymore and just expected. But yeah, like Vollering, I think this was her race she wanted to win this year. As the Works apparently started the classic season, a couple of like, which race do you want to win this year? And then they get to fill in one race, and apparently Vollering had Amstel Gold, and Kopecky had Ronde van Vlaanderen or Paris-Roubaix. So Yeah, it didn't work out for Kopecky there, but we also learned that Kopecky can win Amstel Gold.
She was very impressive on Koberg.
Yeah, it was very impressive to see Kopecky looked at following and said, yes, now is your time to go. And if you have still, or if you're still capable to do that in the final 5 or 3 kilometers of the race, she can win as well. She was still quite fresh. She became second easily in the chasing group. So she gifted that win to Vollering because it was written on the paper at the start of the season.
I remember us, after opening weekend, we drew 5 conclusions, I think. And one of them was Team SD Worx is able to win every race with this squad. You guys, had some doubts. Are you still doubting about that conclusion?
No, but there was an important caveat with the right tactics. And last week they messed it up. Yeah, I mean the conclusion was correct, but the tactics haven't always been there.
I looked it up. Kopecky and Vollering were at the start of 4 races together this year. That was Omloop, Strade, Tour of Flanders and Amstel Gold Race. And 3 times they ended up being first and second.
Oh yeah.
That's
crazy.
incredible.
It's crazy.
And I think the first one you have another 1-2 for SD Worx, right? With Wiebes at Omloop.
And Nokere Koersen, I think. Kopecky won
Right.
there.
Yeah,
So-
no, Kopecky won and Wiebes was in second.
Yeah, exactly. Annemiek van Vleuten, we have to talk about her in the rainbow jersey. She ended up in 11th place, feeling not good due to the cold. Is it too early to draw some conclusions?
She isn't good enough yet in this part of the season. She admitted it herself, it's due to the cold. But the fact she tried to attack on a flatter part on the course and not on an uphill part like she does already for several years already showed that she has not the legs that she wanted. I don't know what's wrong, but I've reading an article about that she trained on being more explosive this winter, that she changed up her sort of training. But maybe that's a mistake and she didn't really have to do that because she was able to win races the last couple of years, and now she seems to have a little bit of trouble with the SD Worx dominance as well. It's very hard to race against a strong team like SD Worx, even though Lippert was there and was competing with the best as well. But I don't see Annemiek van Vleuten win Liège next Sunday.
Someone said in a Belgian cycling podcast that she might have overtrained, and they even said it might be the year too much for
Yeah.
Annemiek.
I think when it
Great
comes to
options.
overtraining, it's possible. She does have very heavy training loads always. She's always had that. I think maybe the training more on explosiveness, as Eve said, could be a mistake where she actually doesn't have enough of a base. But then again, she uses like huge amount of training loads to get ready for a season. I think we'll still see her in the Grand Tours. I think that's what she's really focusing on. The classic campaign obviously failed for her, and I don't think she's gonna be good enough at Liège either.
You can say it's the year too much. We're
Yep.
just the 18th of April when we're recording this. There were still 3 Grand Tours to go. Don't write off Annemiek van Vleuten for the Tour and for the Giro.
I think she undertrains because I also read that of the high intensity, that she apparently also reduced the volume. That's like the modern training methods reduce volume or density, but it's a general rule, but it clearly doesn't work for everyone. So that's a thing to evaluate for Vleuten, and yeah, doesn't work.
The third spot on the podium wasn't for Team SD Works. It was for Shirin van Anrooy. After her win in Trofeo Alfredo Binda, this is once again a very strong result. Like, yeah, for me, she's amongst the best riders we've seen this classic season.
Yeah, she she has 7 race days this season, and 5 times she finished in the top 10. So that says a lot about someone who's only 21 years old. We can't forget that as well. It's not because we have a Remco Evenepoel and a Tadej Pogacar who are very strong at a young age that it's normal. But Van Anrooy performs on a very high level and will become better the next years.
Yeah, and most of the time she's even working for her teammates as well,
Yep.
and wasting a huge amount of energy before, yeah, targeting that good result. So there's a huge potential, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, Trek Segafredo is a team with only 13 riders, and I think they've done quite a lot this classic season. Of course, competing with SD Worx is going to be very difficult, but wherever possible, they've been there and showed themselves really strong.
I think I mentioned last episode about the dominance of SD Works, if it's good or not for the sports in general. And last week I saw an article from the team manager of FDG, the Groupama, saying there needs to be a maximum amount of budget a team can spend, like there is in the Formula One, a salary cap, or I don't know what's the name of it. Would it be good for the sport in general, men's and women's cycling, or you think no?
I personally don't think it's a good thing for the sport. The amount of money that goes into cycling isn't like a huge amount if you compare to like Formula One or football or whatever, where you do have those limitations. So to introduce that into cycling, I don't think is going to make much of a difference if you consider someone like Jumbo-Visma, who some consider to be dominant, and in the early classics definitely were. They keep saying that they are like the 6th or 7th biggest budget. I don't know how true that is, but it sort of goes to show where, it's not always about spending a lot of money, because look at Israel Cycling. They spend a lot of money, but they're not even in the World Tour anymore. Like,
It's the
spending money.
retirement. It's a retirement home for all the 30 plus riders.
You gotta spend it the right way.
Exactly. Like, I think, and this is coming from a French team. I think French teams have sort of this tendency to complain about foreign teams that have slightly bigger budgets and getting more success from it. But maybe those French teams should sort of look at how they're training and what they're doing to their own riders.
Definitely. If I Victor Lafayette, for example, if I look how he trains, as just, I mean, give me the talent of that man, and I ride like top results. Like he wastes so much talent. It's insane. I get pretty angry for that. Honestly, like 2 weeks ago, he did a ride just 5-hour tempo. No one does that. No one. That's training from 1950, and he still does that. It's just bonkers.
All right, keep calm, Dieter. Let's move over to a new monument. The 4th monument of the season is taking place next Sunday. And if we should believe everyone, is going to be a big battle against Tadej Pogacar and Remco Evenepoel. Do you guys agree with that, or is there place for an outsider?
there is place for an outsider, I think.
That's no surprise you're saying that, Yves.
Oh, not again, please. We all know Remco and Tadej are the top favorites, and they deserve to be the top favorites. They are on a different level whenever they race. But Liège is a hard race, maybe a little bit unpredictable. Not so sure yet, but it mostly happens at exactly the same moment on the course every year. But there are strong teams. They will line up strong teams with strong selections that will try to change up the strategy and the plans of a UAE and a Quick Step.
Do you think it's possible for Remco Evenepoel to do the same as last year? To finish such a solo with Pogacar being at the start as well?
Can he drop Pogacar? That's the question.
Indeed, in my opinion, it will be pretty hard for Evenepoel to drop Pogacar. I think he's able to follow in, but that's not enough, I'm afraid.
If he does the same move as last year and Pogacar is on his wheel, I don't think he's going to drop him. If Pogacar is like 10th to wheel and there's a gap, maybe. Then Remco just puts on the afterburners and goes for it. That's
And if Pogacar attacks, can Remco follow?
I think that it's a similar situation where if he's on the wheel, yes, if there's a gap, Remco does have to keep more TT capabilities to try and close it. But it really depends on where. If it's the same situation as last year with the attack on the last section of Redoute, then it's going to be difficult.
Dieter?
An interviewer said to Lampard that if Pogacar is able to follow Remco, he always wins. And Lampard reacted on that with that he needed to do more than 4 watts in January to beat Remco in a sprint, and he barely beat him. And Lampard gave Remco and Pogacar both 50% chance if they are going to sprint.
Yeah,
so
but
I think that's
I think we
interesting.
can all agree that Pogacar is a better sprinter than Lampard, no?
Yeah, I don't know how
Lampard is
often
a lot
Lampard
faster
and
than you think, though. Lampard is a lot faster as you think.
But Lampard is faster,
Yeah.
but Lampard is fast. Lampard is faster than we think, but he's not faster than Pogacar. No way he's faster than the Slovenian wonder kid.
I mean, in a 2-up sprint, it's always going to be about like who starts first, explosiveness. It's not just a regular bunch sprint. So much tactics comes into it. And I think if you run the same sprint with the same 2 guys 10 times, you're not going to get the same winner
Yeah.
every time.
Can agree with that.
But
I'm-
we
if-
saw the sprint from Evenepoel in Basque Country against Roglic multiple times, and I think we can all say that Evenepoel
wasn't that
his
Catalonia?
sprint
Yeah,
or
Catalonia. yeah.
Catalonia.
Yeah.
We can all say that Evenepoel his sprint was stronger than it has ever been before. He was able to compete with Roglic and make it tough,
He was
for
better
Roglic
in that
and-
first sprint.
and he was better in that first sprint. Roglic and Tadej, if they go to the line, who's the fastest of those two?
If they're both on top shape, it's going to be very, very close. So I wouldn't put my money on it.
Also, El Jaguar, Sergio Guita, how he won the sprint in Basque, I think. I don't know why, but he's so underrated as a one-day rider. I mean, take a look at his results. He has really good results. One-day races, I think last year in the LBL, he came from very far and still finished 5th, just behind Dani Martinez. If you have if Pogacar and Evenepoel don't right away, I'm not so sure that Higuita does have serious chance to win that sprint. I would give him a chance.
Is that the biggest name you think, Dieter, besides Pogacar and Evenepoel?
Yes. But he crashed in Amstel pretty hard. He finished the race apparently, but he didn't go over the line. Just before the finish, he went to the bus or something. So I don't know how bad the crash influences him. But if he's good, I think he's the best outside of Remco and Tadej.
All right.
So Higita above Pitcock.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hot takes.
All right. I'm just going to drop a meaningless stat.
That's
Pogacar
what
and
this podcast
Evenepoel
is all about.
have been at the start of 3 one-day races together, and Remco won 2 of them. The World Championships and San Sebastian. The other one was Flash Wallon.
Yeah.
Interesting. Meaningless, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I
Alright.
think I wrote a very similar stat a couple of weeks ago where if Remco and Vingegaard are at the start line as well, Vingegaard never wins. And it's true. But
So
What
we
does
have
it say?
we have the winner for Sunday.
Pogacar even knows that himself, because I heard it saying in the interview, so it's in his head.
of course he's sort of looking forward to it. Like the entire cycling media circus is hyping up a battle between Pogacar and Remco. So of course he's aware of it and wants to sort of poke the hornet's nest a little bit. But yeah, personally I kind of want to see what Thomas Glow can do. He's been out of racing for a little bit after crashing in one of the Italian races. But very early in the season, he was doing very good, and last season as well. And then, of course, our young wolf, where I don't know what to expect from him with Leonard van Eetveld, but I think he could do top 10 if he's lucky.
I'm curious for Glock as well because the Jumbo leaders kind of missed the opportunity on Sunday during Amstel Gold Race. I think they had Tosh van der Zande in that breakaway. But Benoit, he tried afterwards to bridge the gap, and I don't even know what happened to Walter. Does anyone know that?
I think he tried to work for Benoit to close the gap, but he faded pretty fast.
But is Glock
Finished
good
30th.
enough already to compete for a top 5, for instance?
I think what race was it? At in Valenciana, he was able to compete with was it a? Now I need to be correct.
He attacked on the uphill. I think that was a stage hard one, if I recall correctly. But this is a monument. This is a long race, a tough race. That's still something else compared to Valenciana.
Longest
course.
stage in Valenciana isn't even 200 kilometers. So, and that's the hardest thing for a youngster to deal with. So, yeah, a little bit tough.
Dieter, you texted us with the message, the early breakaway will hurt a lot of domestiques on Sunday.
If Jason Osborne is in there, his immense motor in that guy, he's a beast. A lot of people don't know it yet, but he's a beast. Langkawi last year proves that. He just destroyed the whole ballot in his own. He was laughing, but someday he will.
Langkawi,
He will.
Liège, no difference.
Look at the what's made. Doesn't matter if it's in Langkawi or Liège. What's, and he did immense what's there.
So you expect him to be in the breakaway.
Yeah,
And if not, he's going to rip up the peloton.
How much money will you put on him?
if he has a good odd like 500, which I think he will have, I will put €1 on it.
€1. Okay, interesting.
More
Or
won't
even
be
predicting
accepted
who's
anyway,
going to
so-
be in the break.
Yeah, Osborne needs to be in there. He's such a diesel. No. And Alpecin doesn't have a leader like Pogacar or Evenepoel, so
Oh,
They have
I think
Hermans.
you're underestimating Hermans. Certainly after his podium last year,
He's
he
been
showed.
sick, no?
Hermans
Yes,
on the
but
level of Pogacar and Evenepoel.
No one is.
no one is. Not even Jason
that's what I said.
Osborne.
Yeah, that's true.
I expect a lot from Trek Segafredo actually. They line up with Schialmose, Mollema, and Ciccone. Schialmose and Ciccone showed some really good form recently. Ciccone already won 1 or 2 races. Schialmose as well. What do you guys expect from them?
Yeah, Schialmose
Most-
kind of surprised me in the Amstel Gold Race, to be honest. So, yeah, you're right that you have high expectations of the team, but to be honest, I can't see them winning Liège, but a podium would be nice.
I think their best shot is going to be Ciccone after seeing him compete with Remco and Roglic in Catalonia. He was able to follow them the longest of all, and sometimes stayed with them. So this seems to be something that he can do.
And he has a decent kick on him as well at the
Yeah.
finish line. So
Yeah. Definitely.
I think Schial will be the best. I think, yeah, he's gonna be still 22 or just 23. He will be top level in 1 or 2 years. Like he's really, really, really good, I think.
Is Jai Hindley at the start as well this Sunday?
yes,
Normally,
he
yeah.
is.
The guy was top
Yeah.
10 at Amstel Gold Race as well, I think.
And Vlasov and Jungels and Schachman. Oh, Schachman, that's my pre-season pick.
Bob.
Schachman is gonna win Liège. I know. I
He
know.
got an infection like in his lungs, though. So
I don't care, Dieter. Schachman is gonna beat Osborne to the line,
And how is he going to do that?
nodding his head as fast as possible to be able to finish first.
All right. Maybe we should end the episode with a round. I need a name.
2 names.
2 names.
Otherwise it's boring.
So the non-mainstream guy strikes again.
But it's a name like Evenepoel or Pogacar, and someone who's gonna be third.
All right. You can start.
No, I don't start.
Are those the rules?
Dieter can start.
Remco to win, Pogacar second then, and Sky Kita third.
All right. For me, it's Remco, obviously, and Valtteri.
Yes.
I go with Pogacar and Madouas.
I'll go with Pogacar and Ciccone.
All right.
There we
Bram, it's all yours. Unless
that-
Dieter has something to add.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, one last thing I had on my list but forgot to mention. There's a extra hill in the final of Liège this year, which makes the final even harder and even more suited for the really light guys. So that's also something that makes a solo for Remco Evenepoel or another guy easier.
That's interesting to know, actually.
didn't know that either. It's going to be interesting. All right, that's a wrap for today's Domestique Cycling Podcast. A big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on our Ko-Fi, link in the description. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
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 I've got the spots, the sickness. There's be twins in my brain.